Alright, hello and welcome to the Sketchy stream. Don't worry kid, your first hit of art is always free. If you're new here, the rules are simple. You tell me to draw something, and I'll conveniently forget everything I've spent the last 20 years learning as I desperately try to sketch it for you. I don't use reference because I love seeing what basic objects I've seen hundreds of times before I can't actually draw. If you don't know me, my name is Raymond Griffith. I'm a former caricature artist who's really good at convincing people that I accidentally drew them that ugly. But since the pandemic made it so I can't see people's crooked teeth anymore, I brought my funny looking pictures to the internet. Today is a very special occasion. We're celebrating the launch of my first ever independently produced comic, Astounding Tales #1. Astounding Tales is a family-friendly comic that harkens back to the golden age of visual storytelling, where heroes were heroes, villains were villains, and you knew in the end good would always succeed. It stars a 12-year-old girl named Billy who discovers she's secretly a powerful android and has to balance math class and fighting giant monsters. To help me celebrate today, I've got that's right, you heard it right here, two special guests with me today. First and foremost is the creator and writer of Astounding Tales, Jake Cohen. Are you there, Jake?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Internet. Welcome all.
And could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what brought you to the world of comics?
Certainly. Well, I'm a lifelong, no, I wouldn't say lifelong. I guess I read my first comic when I was probably like 5 or 6. It was for my birthday. I received Marvel Masterworks reprints of X-Men #1 and Fantastic Four #1, and I believe my first floppy current comics I ever bought. Well, there was a DC Showcase with Superman and Batman with kryptonite gloves from maybe 1988 or something like that, and then I think it was Jim Lee's last Uncanny cover or Will Sportasio's last Uncanny cover, 290 something.
The fact that you know the cover it tells us all we need to know, right?
Oh, it's clear in my brain. It's the one where they went to the other dimension to get Colossus's brother.
Oh,
and
of course.
Going through a dimensional portal. That's my first issue of Uncanny I ever bought when comics could still be bought at your drugstore or your 7-Eleven. Yes, I distinctly, it's probably somewhere still in my mom's house. I remember those first comics
framed above the bed.
And that's kind of what especially the work of Stan and Jack, the Silver Age, early Marvel stuff was definitely a big inspiration in terms of Astounding Tales.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but I want to get my second guest in here as well.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries. He's a brilliant marketer and even more brilliant mustache grower, Lennon Patton.
Oh, hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Similar to Jake, I've been reading comics, probably as long as I can remember. I used to read comics in the back of the newspaper, if you guys remember that in the olden days. And also, I was a huge Star Wars fan. Fun fact about me, my name was almost going to be Luke. Because that's how much my parents, my dad especially, loved Star Wars. But they went with an even dorkier music reference named Lennon. But
what could have been?
Yeah, what could have been? Luke is kind of generic, so I'm happy with the choice they made. But my first comic that I remember getting, I was in the hospital, and my dad got me the Return of the Jedi. Issue number 3. Thanks, Dad. Issue number 3, and I still have it in my collection. And I remember reading it cover to back. I hadn't even actually seen the movie yet, but it was just amazing to have this comic book that was based on this franchise that I loved. And now I'm a grown man with a house full of comics.
Who isn't here?
That's living the dream.
Exactly. I do want to say we've got some other special things going on in this stream as well. Part of our celebration has been a 3-part giveaway in collaboration with my fellow art streamers, Kevin Hinkle and Matt Elder. We've already given away 2 free subscriptions to Marvel Unlimited and DC Infinite.
Oh, wow. How do I get on that gravy train?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. We have a giveaway. A link is in the chat, is in the description. And all across the internet, you just click on there, enter your email, and you are entered to win, and we'll be drawing at the end of the stream. And these are subscription services with thousands of back issues from all your favorite characters. Every story you've seen on the films, it came from here. So you want to get in on that.
That's amazing. So all those back issues no longer. Well, I guess in the pandemic, it's kind of tough to go digging through back issue bins. So that's awesome. Wow. Marvel Unlimited. That's sweet.
Thank you for the plug. So we're also going to be playing a little bit of a game here today. I'm going to go ahead and start, since I don't have anything to draw yet, with this suggestion here that I love, which is Spider Pig. But then after that, we're going to start playing some trivia with you guys. So I'm going to ask a trivia question about a comic book character, or one of the guys will ask, and then whoever answers first will get their request drawn. So that's how we're going to play it today. Hopefully people enjoy that. If not, we'll just stop doing it.
I think I came up with a few good ones. I think I got a few good brain busters here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I got a few. It's a good mix. It's some Marvel, some DC. So I think I got some good ones for the folks.
Got everything and anything. So anyway, you were saying you were greatly inspired by all those classic comics. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more of that, or...
Oh, yeah, sure. So especially growing up reading comics in like the 80s and 90s, I definitely saw like a more deconstructionist take of superheroes. Like, what if superheroes were real and gritty? And that's awesome. Like, I loved Watchmen. I love all that stuff. But especially over the summer, I was reading a Jack Kirby biography, and I just got really inspired to kind of just tell kind of an earnest, take on the genre. In any genre, you could do parody, you could do all kind of takes on a genre, and it's not a question of taste or right or wrong. But I just kind of wanted to do a straight up like old school like Marvel bullpen Stan and Jack, Silver Age Marvel type story. Obviously, this is a contemporary story. Takes place in the modern era, but that was kind of the inspiration, kind of getting the whole ball rolling there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said kind of earlier, those are some of the first comics I ever read. And I was a huge most Marvel zombies of like the 90s and stuff like that. I was a huge X-Men kid, and so reading those like first Stan and Jack stories, like, oh, where the Juggernaut came from, and like all those cool reprints, were definitely like amazing. And now as an adult, kind of being able to put things into context of like the work Jack was doing, and it just it kind of inspires me even more in terms of where he sits in comics and kind of what he did for the medium. When you're a child, when you're like 7 or 8, you notice that it looks different, like especially when you're reading like Jim Lee comics, and then you're like seeing like this Jack Kirby work. You're like, there's definitely a distinction here, but you don't really have the context of like, especially the older stuff prior to Jack's work, of kind of what that evolution was, and like kind of just the vocabulary, like what's going on here. So I think as I get older, I don't want to speak for other people, but as I go older, my appreciation for like Jack's work has definitely like deepened.
Oh, I was gonna say we believe you. You're a comics fan.
Absolutely. Well, and Jake brings up a great point. As someone who's had a subscription to Marvel Unlimited for the last couple of years, it can be overwhelming, especially as someone who's been like a lifelong Marvel fan and really enjoying this second renaissance of Marvel comics. Via the MCU and all the wonderful movies. One of the things that I've really been enjoying doing with my Marvel Unlimited subscription is that when something is coming out in the MCU, like WandaVision, for example, the folks who run Marvel Unlimited will highlight and feature stories with the characters that are in the current whatever MCU property is. So it's been really awesome going back with these adult eyes and context to read these like key issues of
and be like, wow, that's what they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have a Marvel Unlimited subscription and you're a Marvel fan, then I would say, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, and DC Infinite's fine too.
Yeah, well, I've been wrestling with whether or not I should get a subscription to that, and I use a platform called Hoopla. It's Hoopla. And if you have a library card, you get 6 free titles a month, comics, movies, music, and I use it primarily to read DC stories. I'm a big fan of the Wonder Woman series that George Perez did in the 80s. And with the Wonder Woman movie recently coming out, I did a little dipping my toe into that via the context of watching the Wonder Woman movie.
I was going to say, this podcast, or this stream now is sponsored by Hoopla.
So my younger nephew, he's like, I guess, is he like 8 or 10? I'm a bad uncle, but he's just getting into like George Perez. But for me, I could never get into the Teen Titans, so I've been giving him like George Perez, like Avengers comics, even though I know the Teen Titans, his Teen Titans work is supposed to be like, that's the George Perez, like that's his jam. Like, I don't know, something about the Robin and the briefs. I can't get over it. It's just weird, man. I don't know.
And I'm almost done with this picture. I just wanted to say really fast, welcome to everyone who's come in since we started. I believe we have Matt in. We have Hawkeye Lego Man, of course. Juan is here. And then Anna Elena and Demure, of course. I forgot to say hi earlier. I think I'm going to throw our first little trivia question out at people. Inspired by the latest little movie. And the way this is going to work, I'd appreciate it if you could put your suggestion not in the comment, but soon afterwards, so I can see who gets it first. Who is the father in the comics of Scarlet Witch? And whoever answers that first will get their request drawn.
And you could see this in the early Stan and Jack X-Men comics. You can see this interaction. I don't know if that's a hint. I don't want to give away too much. But
I mean, if they know that issue, then I think they probably already know the answer. All right, very cool.
I mentioned earlier that I was reading a Kirby biography over the summer. It's Kirby King of Comics by Mark Evanier, which I believe he worked with Kirby. So if anyone is interested and they haven't read it already, I highly recommend it. There's like a bunch of really awesome art in here as well. So Kirby King of Comics, I definitely highly recommend. And it's got an introduction by Neil Gaiman. So.
Ooh. I know that guy. And yes, it looks like Matt is our winner. Matt, you'll have to remind me what your request was. I'm sure it was some kind of horse.
Teen Titans Go.
Big winner. You're the big winner.
Woo!
It's better than a Marvel No Prize. You're gonna, there's a drawing here.
A drawing No Prize. Did you say something about Teen Titans?
Yeah, I think he wants something. Teen Titans Go.
Okay.
Ask if he has a favorite character from that series.
Yeah, not all 5. Give me which one you like the best, buddy. Personally, I'm a big fan of Raven, but I could see an argument for many others. X-Men Rogue, that ain't Teen Titans.
Throw the curveball.
That's fine. I can do that.
Rogue is a great character.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
And tangentially connected to Scarlet Witch and Magneto, just to put a little bit.
Well, yeah,
Jake knows what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, late '80s, her Magneto was almost a thing, man.
Excuse you?
Yeah, very, very close. Very
in the
close.
Savage Land.
That's. I know Jim Lee does great work now. He's amazing, but for my money, even before adjectiveless X-Men, that uncanny run before they did X-Men #1 is my favorite Jim Lee stuff. I think.
That's a good run. One of the things that I did when I first got my Marvel Unlimited subscription was to start reading the Claremont run in order from 1975 to 1991. I just completed the run.
How many issues is that?
Oh, it's 17 years. I don't know.
It's a lot. It took me.
So I think it's X-Men
94
to like 180 something, and then I don't know if you want to include like his run on Excalibur and like all the other stuff, but just on Uncanny, it's 17 years of Uncanny. So
yeah, it's the I did the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries. I did the Nightcrawler had a miniseries. God Loves, Man Kills.
I love
graphic
God
novel.
Man Kills. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, which that should have a warning for the younger kids. That needs to be.
What, you mean that's not an appropriate one? It sounded so family friendly.
It's got some themes in it and some language that if I had a kiddo, that I would be probably reading that along with them to provide some context.
That's an excellent recommendation because I think it does deal with important themes, but for the younger readers, read it with your folks so they can kind of explain
Absolutely.
some of those more those more dense themes. But I mean, in terms of like monthly floppy like comics, like month to month superhero comic books, Claremont X-Men is my favorite, but I think you'd be hard pressed to say a better. Now there might be better comics out there like graphic novels and different genres, but in terms of monthly superhero books that are coming out month after month, Claremont's X-Men run for me. I don't maybe you want to say Stan and Jack on Fantastic Four. But when in terms of like when I start listing like comics that are better than that, I'm getting into like graphic novels and miniseries. But for like a monthly comic coming out for 17 and a half years, you're gonna be hard pressed to do better than Claremont's Uncanny run.
Agreed.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things, and I want to say a quick hello to Brett's Build or Brett's Builds. I apologize. We got to chat yesterday on Matt's stream. It was a pretty good time. And apparently he wasn't subbed. So, wow, that hurts my heart.
Well, and if anyone's a fan of Claremont's narration, the angry Claremontian narrator, or just like his purple prose in the narration, you will appreciate, or at least I can't say that like, will be as good, but we're shooting for that in terms of a lot of the captions and narration in Astounding Tales. So if like that Claremontian narration is like your Jimmy Jam, I think you'll appreciate Astounding Tales.
Yes, I will agree. There's a lot of narration.
That was the comics I grew up in.
Oh, I know. I just I'm laughing because I'd drawn all these pages and then I started laying out the text on it, and I'm like, oh my god, where am I going to put all this? I'll plan for it better now.
If modern readers can make it through Brian Michael Bendis's novel length prose on each panel, then they can definitely make it through. And I like Bendis, so that's just a slight dig. It's a lot of words.
Words, glorious words.
And I want to say for the record, it looks like I don't remember how to draw Rogue.
Well, I mean, I think
this is turning into like an 80s workout video here. I'm not sure why.
Well, it's so weird because like the Rogue I grew up with, like the Jim Lee Rogue, is like when you start looking at the earlier Rogues, like it's definitely like there's something that happens when he starts drawing, and that's now the modern depiction. But like she was always beautiful, but in terms of like being like the modern bombshell Rogue, like Silvestri, I feel like didn't really draw her that way. I feel like that's like a Jim Lee thing.
It's 100. Having just read that, my favorite Rogue is probably the Paul Smith Rogue. He didn't do a lot of issues, but and then the Paul Smith stuff, I think doesn't get enough appreciation within the Claremont run. Byrne gets a lot of references, and Jim Lee and Silvestri and Barry Windsor Smith, but for my money, Paul Smith is just absolutely amazing.
Or whatever Claremont did to make sure during his run, he always had like the best artist. Like I don't know what's going on in that back office, what he was doing, but like pretty much you look at his run, like his work is great, but like you made a great point that like he's always like consistently during that run, whether it's Barry Windsor Smith, of course John Byrne, Dave Cockrum, like every artist is like super legit, and like I think that's also remarkable too. During the course of a run, you would think but no, like they all have their own distinct styles. For me, Silvestri is my kind of my definitive X-Men artist. But I
like the cartoon.
Well, that's definitely that Jim Lee. The cartoon is definitely that Jim Lee art design. Like you got to think how long X-Men or Marvel has been picking over the corpse of like that Jim Lee art design is like and just the Claremont run in general. It's kind of like the same thing with like some of Alan Moore's like DC stuff, where they're just like picking over the corpse of like 30, 40-year-old plot lines. Like there's that Green Lantern when they did what was it, like with all the different colors of the rings and the dead lanterns. Or I didn't even read it. I just heard about it. But that's from like a 1980s like 4-page Alan Moore plot. That whole storyline with all the lanterns came back from the dead or something. Was this like 2015 or 2014?
Yeah, that came out pretty recently.
Something like that. So like that whole plot line is from a 4-page like Alan Moore short comic. It's like so crazy. Like the X-Men stuff is like of just them taking stuff that's like from decades old and like still just reusing it and rehashing it and like I don't know, man, like I think it's remarkable. And it's part of the reason why people like Jim Lee left. They're like, hey man, cut me a few bucks if you're gonna rehash and reuse this same illustration on a million posters and like a million action figures and a cartoon. Kind of let him wet his beak a little bit. And I left the Image.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Lennon's little comment here. It wasn't. I'm not sure that this character design was clear, so I had to put the name on it. And I think I'm ready for my next request, by the way. So we're going to throw another quick little trivia question to the audience here. What color was the Hulk originally?
Oh,
like in the very first issues.
Going deep cuts here.
Yeah, nobody will know this one. And Hawkeye Lego Man, I see you there. Welcome in. And yes, this is your chance to get the Scotty Young Hawkeye. I would like to draw that.
So the original Incredible Hulk wasn't just Lou Ferrigno painted green with a paint roller. That's not that's not the original Hulk.
Matt, you just won. How could you?
Well, I didn't give it away the answer.
No, that's fair. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You can get the next request. Okay, there we go. Kelsey can have her request, which, if I recall correctly, was... Oh, and I still have Spider Pig on the screen. I'm so bad at comments. I'm sorry, guys. We'll hide that. And then we had Rogue on there. And then, Kelsey, can you throw your comment back in there?
Yeah, the Punisher Flamingo.
There we go.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you, Anna.
Oh, all right. And let's see. So we have Punisher Flamingo. This is very important to her because she is deeply in love with the Punisher. Not the actor, the character himself. Let's see. Dead silence. Perfect.
Oh, the Punisher. He puts people in silence. He puts people in silence.
He took y'all out, huh?
It was huge when I was a kid. I didn't put it together like, when you're like that young, when you're in like 4th grade, or at least when I was that age, my friends and I, we weren't super aware of like artists, but that was like right when Jim Lee and Whilce Portacio were getting done like working on the Punisher. Mm-hmm. So like the Punisher was huge when I was a kid.
That was my first introduction to Jim Lee's art. Was actually not in X-Men, because when I was younger, if you didn't buy those off the shelf, I couldn't afford the Jim Lee back issues of X-Men, and they hadn't started reprinting them. Like I was reading the old stuff, in the Cockrum and Burns stuff in classic X-Men. I had a buddy who was collecting those, which was the only way we had access to those older stories, Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past. But the Jim Lee art that I could get my hands on was Punisher War Journal.
That was the run.
Yeah, so good.
We've got a little collection of Punisher Max at my house.
Punisher Max.
That's the Dark Phoenix.
I didn't quite hear that.
Double jigs. I think
yes.
We both buzzed in at the same time.
It's the Garth Ennis stuff, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, gotcha. That's really, really funny.
That makes me feel old because in my mind, I don't feel like that happened that long ago. But then, like, if I do a quick Google, I'm like, oh no, that was a long time ago.
The classic issues that came out 20 years ago, just happened.
Right. In my mind, the Marvel, the Ultimate Universe is something that just happened, and like the Grant Morrison run on X-Men just happened.
Oh yeah, totally. Yes, yeah. I feel you on that one.
for those who don't know, the Ultimate Universe was Marvel's little reattempt at a reboot for their comics. It's where Ultimate Spider-Man, aka Miles Morales, comes from, and also Nick Fury as Samuel L. Jackson, which came first in the comics, not in the movies. They drew him like that, and then they're like, "Oh well, we've got to cast him now."
Yeah.
Which I guess is, from my understanding, kind of rare in modern comics because they're worried about like legal, like licensing. That like not too often nowadays will you use the likeness of somebody without like checking with them. So that was kind of a cool gamble they took of like, hey, that's kind of fun, and then yada 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 kind of history kind of really worked out there.
Yeah, it's been more common for characters to be introduced into the comics from other media. Probably Harley Quinn being the most famous example of a character that existed on the Batman animated show and then was introduced later back into the Batman universe. But no, you're right, Jake.
Which I highly recommend. Speaking of Batman, the animated universe is on HBO Max now. I don't know if anyone's doing the HBO Max.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good.
I'm watching Justice League. I'm watching Justice League Unlimited right now, which I'd only seen bits and pieces of because even though that was 14, 15 years ago that came out.
Just came out. Just came
out. Yeah. It's good. There's definitely aspects of it that show its age, but I really enjoyed seeing some of the. Everybody loves the big three, I think, or they're neutral on them. But I love seeing the wider range of characters.
Oh yeah, when they go to the Justice League Unlimited, when they really go deep, yeah, that's really the fantastic part of DC. But they also have on there the Batman Brave and the Bold. Have you watched that?
Not yet.
Because they really go deep with like oddball, like weird Kirby characters, and just like really, if you like that concept of Unlimited, Brave and Bold goes deep with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'll put that on my list. I'm definitely somebody who, Spider-Man's my favorite character. X-Men, the animated series, is a big reason why I got into the X-Men universe. It was accessible, and it wasn't that I was against DC as a company, but I just didn't have the same affinity for those characters, so the being able to see some of those lesser known characters is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I guess just having, because I would say a deeper continuity, but there were so many decades of DC where like continuity wasn't a thing, but just in terms of just the breadth of characters and ideas, especially when you take kind of that Grant Morrison approach where it has all happened and it's all legitimate, then it really kind of just becomes kind of fun and bonkers, and just you can go so deep with characters and concepts.
I totally agree. I'm a big fan of the multiverse, and in the same way that I love the Elseworlds concept. I'm not a fan of continuity keeping you from being able to tell the stories that you want to tell. I think that the single greatest Superman story ever made is, other than the 78 movie, is All-Star Superman, because it's just so simple and so perfect.
Well, I always remember at the end of Alan Moore's Whatever Happened, or in the beginning, that he has that text over the first panel, that narration, and Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it ends with, this is a fictitious story, I'm paraphrasing here, like, this is a fictitious story about Superman, but aren't they all? Like, the idea of like one story is more.
No, this one's true.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a crazy concept. And, I'm a big believer in every generation has their own stories, and that these things should kind of evolve. If they stay frozen in amber, it becomes something like Flash Gordon or The Shadow, things that are like still wonderful, but they're like kind of dated and they don't stay like consistent. That every generation deserves their own iteration of pick like your favorite story or whatever, and to like desire that, it always stays kind of locked like how it was for you when you first came to it, kind of it'll cause it to kind of wither on the vine and die. It will become like kind kind of like a Doc Savage or a Tarzan or something like that, where it's just not.
What's wrong with Tarzan?
Modern. I mean, there's a lot of problems with Tarzan, but that being said, if they did kind of stay with it and kind of keep modernizing it, Tarzan probably could be usable today. But because it's locked in that kind of era of when it was created, when you do kind of try to adapt it for 2020, it becomes really problematic.
Fair enough.
Where, there's a lot of other stuff or not a lot of stuff, but things from that era that exist today, because Superman would be the perfect example. You're kind of taking what's essential, but obviously every generation has their own Superman. Their pre-crisis Superman, Golden Age Superman, post-crisis Superman. I guess no underwear on the outside Superman is the current Superman.
No underwear on the outside Superman.
Yeah,
perfect description.
Every generation. And I'm not going to poo-poo, I have my Superman, but like when I fight some like 10-year-old that their Superman isn't legitimate, or like some 50-year-old man that their Superman isn't legitimate, like for me to say my Superman is the only real Superman is just like a crazy kind of like argument. But by the way, the pre-crisis Superman around 1984, 1985, that is the true Superman.
Fair enough.
Is that the Blue Lightning Superman from the late '90s?
Well, that's definitely my Superman.
That's Mullet Superman.
Mullet Superman is my childhood Superman, but that's yeah. And also, I do remember. I don't know if anyone else had the experience, and this was during the time like right after Tim Burton's Batman. So like people are kind of taking superheroes seriously, but there's not a lot of content out there. I used to get angry as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old at the Adam West Batman. Now I appreciate it as an adult, but I used to get mad and like yell at my TV screen and be like, "Batman is serious. Batman is not a joke. What
serious
is going
shark
on
repellent."
Yeah. So I used to get mad at the Adam West show. I'd be like, "Why are they making fun of Batman? Batman is serious. I hate this show." And like yell at the TV.
So I just want to catch up really fast. I did start drawing another drawing. I went ahead and did Hawkeye Lego Man's request for a Scotty Young style Hawkeye, because he's been asking for that literally for 3 days now. And I even looked this one up before the stream so I could kind of get it right. So there's that. And also I do want to say hello to Cabbage Face, who has dropped in. It's always great to have you here. And then that's it. I'll let you guys continue now. I knew what I was getting into when I invited a couple of comic nerds on the show, but boy, I don't know if I was ready.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know about Jake, but I've had more than a year of not being able to safely go into a comic book store, post up, and get up on my soapbox and pontificate on all things comic books. So we're taking it out on everyone.
Letting out some steam, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's very true. In the meantime, go ahead.
I was going to say, just what comic book stores closed. It was I was scrambling a little bit. I think it was a few months ago, it was like 3-4 months ago. They had the anniversary edition of Giant Size #1, whereas like going off the original script, but they had like a different artist do every page of the interior. So like it just, you run the gamut, like every huge artist, like everyone had a page. I just started like calling and like Facebooking like different like local comic. Hey, do you have curbside? Are you still open in any way? Like, how can I get this comic?
Can you deliver?
Yeah, well, some guy ended up, even though he's like a few towns over, just like ended up like FedExing it or whatever to me.
Well, you're his only customer, nobody can go in, so it's gotta. I want to throw a quick another trivia question at everyone for our next drawing while I'm working on this color. Let's see, which one do I like? Okay, here's a super easy one. What is the name of Thor's hammer? You don't have to spell it correctly.
So I don't know if you guys had the experience, before, the MCU and stuff like that, with reading things that you never heard people pronounce. And Thor's hammer was definitely something for me as a child.
How did you say it? You can't say it. It'll give the answer.
Not yet, but definitely. Or the other thing, there was a few things. I don't know if you remember the Spider-Man character Doubleganger. So he was like a 4-armed, like monstrous Spider-Man. Like he was during maybe like the Maximum Carnage I remember him from like that crossover. So I guess like it was like a mid-90s character. So I read Doubleganger, so the word doppelganger with a P, I thought it was pronounced with a B, like the Spider-Man character. So most of my like childhood, I pronounced doppelganger, doubleganger.
Double.
There was also, I remember reading, I think maybe Wolverine said like the coup de grace to somebody, like mentioning that phrase, but I never heard anyone say it. So I thought the coup de grace was pronounced the coup de Gracie. So like when you're like, I'm about to deliver, like, you're about to like kill somebody or something, deliver that fatal shot. I thought you're like, oh, I'm about to give someone the coup de Gracie, not the coup de grace. That was definitely, I remember for many years. But I don't know if you guys, much like Thor's hammer, had that experience.
I was going to say, and Kelsey, you don't have to spell it right. That's what I said. I don't care how you spell it. Just tell me the name. And hello, Joey. By the way, that's our winner from yesterday, our giveaway for, he picked DC. I know, he picked DC. But tell me the name of Thor's hammer, and I will draw your request. Anyone. They don't know. They're furiously Googling. I can hear the keyboards flying.
And hopefully we'll
spell it phonetically.
We'll see the only other person worthy to lift it soon, Beta Ray Bill. I feel good we may get Beta Ray Bill in a future Marvel movie.
Well, I mean, what about Lady Thor?
Oh, well, I think that's definitely happening with.
She's supposed to be in the next one, right?
Yeah, I think that's why, and rightly so. I think that's how they got her to come back. She's like, listen, like I'm kind of a big actress, and I have like some lines in this thing.
And some character development. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, Brett's got it. All right, very good. What's your request, Brett?
Brett is worthy.
Yes, finally. All right, let's see if I don't know if he'd already.
That's actually. Is that the correct spelling?
I believe so.
But yeah, I used to think it was like Majinor. Like how do you without like does anyone ever hear people pronounce like a lot of Norse mythology like while you're going about your day?
One thing that I definitely the movie that really kind of broke my brain as far as like the way things are supposed to be pronounced was the first Lord of the Rings movie because I read the Hobbit a bunch when I was a kid, and then I in 5th or 6th grade I read the Lord of the Ring trilogy, and I was very pompous about it, and I heard all these words in my head, and as the way that I thought it was pronounced, and when I watched I was just sitting in the theater, I'm like, oh, that's how you say that person's name, or that's that's how you say that. And then another humbling thing is when comic book podcasts started to be a thing in 2007 or 8, when they were first listed in the iTunes store. Hearing comic book artists and writers' names pronounced correctly broke my brain. The first time I heard Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah. When I was a child, I thought his name was Bill Sienkiewicz.
Sienkiewicz, yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Who's this Sienkiewicz? That's another guy, though, that my appreciation grew. Like, when I was a little kid, probably like around 8 or 10, like when I would see Bill Sienkiewicz's work, I'd be like, why do like it's that impressionistic work. I'd be like, why do people look like how they're supposed to look? Like, what is this? And like as an adult, like I see what he's going for, and it's like amazing. But definitely as like a kid, like totally not getting it, and just like, what is this? And like, so if I would flip over a cover too, and like see, oh, it's a Bill, because he was like a, doing New Mutants, he was a fairly big X artist. Oh, it's a Bill Sienkiewicz issue. Oh man, like everyone's gonna look all weird in this.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think Brett has requested a black horse or a character black horse, so I'm drawing a horse. I don't think that really fits the theme, but I need something to draw. I'm feeling a little desperate, so. And let's see. Don't draw me in this.
Well, I mean, we got a few characters that ride horses, right? There's the Black Knight.
Yes.
Is there any other horse riding characters? I guess, who's the dude
Vigilante,
from DC,
right?
Jacked up face. Jonah Hex, he rides a horse, right? I would assume?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah, right?
He's like the old cowboy with the messed up face.
Yes, which there's a great Batman the Animated Series episode with Jonah Hex. Yeah, you got a few there's some horse riding superheroes. Oh,
Valkyrie.
There you go. That's a rad horse.
Yeah.
Or, I feel like is there like along with like Crypto and Streaky? I feel like there's a super type horse as well.
Absolutely.
This is going deep. Yeah.
That is deep. It's because it's in I think it's in All-Star Superman.
Is it? Oh man.
I think so. Yeah, because he pulls.
I haven't read that in a while. I just Googled it. Comet is so I did cheat,
Comet.
everybody. This is not from my memory. I Googled this. Comet is Supergirl's horse.
Oh, and it's Supergirl's horse. Okay.
Yes.
Who knew?
Because Superman's got Crypto, and I thought, well, who's Streaky? I thought Streaky was her cat.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that her cat?
Yeah.
Super cat?
So maybe she gets a horse and a cat. Like every girl's dream, you get a pony and a cat. Oh man.
That was actually going to be one of my trivia questions. Name a super pet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't think people are jumping on the trivia anyway, so we'll just move on past that. But let's see. Okay, so there's a horse. That doesn't fit the theme at all. So you know what? Let's find something else.
It's a good looking horse.
Thanks. I've been practicing. Let's see. Do we have anything else going on?
So are there any animals that are like weird to draw or hard to draw? Because like I guess it's a thing that exists. You can't just like make it up like sci-fi like robots or whatever. Is there like any animal that you're like, oh please, Jake, don't put
horses?
Is horses the one? Like no westerns?
I don't like drawing horses. They're very difficult.
They go back in time to the old west.
Oh boy, you would do that to me too, wouldn't you?
But they could be like robot horses or zombie horses, so you don't need like weapons. You know?
Okay. Well, anyway, so we've got the horse. Let's see. Oh, Bucky Barnes apparently rides a horse. I didn't know that.
Rides a horse?
That's what Matt says. Let's see. Juan. I mean, I can, but is that even a comic? Muyu? Well, Juan is our resident anime and manga fan. I was focusing a little more on Western stuff today, but I suppose we can throw one in there. But we're going to have to play my favorite game. Somebody look this character up and tell me what it looks like.
I'm in front of my computer. What's up?
Okay, so we've got Muyu Mashima.
How do you spell that, man?
It's on the screen there. M-O-U-Y or M-O-Y-U M-A-S-H-I-M-A.
Oh, all right, cool. All right. Oh. How do you? So I guess is this a young lady with is that blue or purple hair maybe?
Okay.
Kind of like an anime. If like Psylocke was an anime style and kind of wearing like a kind of I don't know if it's like if the mix of like it's kind of like a Victorian era deal, but also like a French maid's outfit. Like, but she's got like a little cape on. I don't know. This is like a weird. This is some costume design. I want to talk to this artist who came up with this character. There's a lot going on here.
All right, but you said like a French looking thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a short kind of French made skirt, but she has like this little tiny cape over her shoulders. But it's like a tiny cape, like a cap, like smaller than Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Like, and she's got like the little like librarian type glasses, like like from Janine from Ghostbusters, like where they're kind of like half moons.
Gotcha.
And she's got kind of like purple, long, like blue or purple hair, like dark hair.
Okay.
Blue, like those big blue anime eyes.
Oh, big blue eyes.
Yeah, they're big anime eyes, and she's got like long. They're not gloves. They're like maybe like finger gloves, but they're long, like up her forearms.
Okay. And like a dress and everything.
She got like a little, but it's like a little like French maid type dress and like long stockings.
Is this a happy character?
She looks pretty happy in these pictures.
All right.
I don't know what's beneath the surface, but yeah. I guess this is what the panel descriptions like I write to Ray sound like.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's
not
got
bad.
kind of like she's like a girl. She's got kind of like I think she wears clothes.
She lives in a house.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of house?
It's got like doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Just deconstructing how Chris Claremont described Jean Grey wearing the French maid's outfit in the early parts of the Dark Phoenix saga was like, you know.
I've never seen that script material. Why? What does it sound like? Is it like off the wall?
Oh well, I mean that's. I was just trying to think of like that's probably the most famous Western comic that utilizes that French maid's outfit when Jason, Jason Wingard is manipulating Jean Grey, or should I say Phoenix? That's a pretty famous John Byrne. You see that fans request that a lot in commissions when Byrne does commissions.
Because his materials, I've not seen them, and like if you click on the Columbia website, all of Claremont's materials like are at their special like their archives in the library. But when you go to the website, like it says like it's because of the pandemic, only like Columbia like people have access to it. But I guess when it's not a pandemic, you know, it's like any other special section collections of a library that as long as you like call ahead and whatever, set it up, that you can go check out. It's his notes, his scripts, like all his materials, not just X-Men stuff, like all his stuff.
That's really cool.
I'd be cool. I'd want to check it out because also, from my understanding is, even though he's working Marvel method, like he's not doing like a full script, they're still like really long and detailed. Like he's still writing 20, 30 pages, even though he's not doing like panel 1, panel 2, the camera angle.
Right, because he has Chris has a theater background, if I remember correctly. He was going to school for like theater production, or maybe it was even like stagecraft or something. I know he had a theater background when he was interning at Marvel.
Well, you could definitely, when he speaks, like, because that's one of the things that's great. Like a lot of like Bronze Age and even Silver Age creators, there's so much content of them on podcasts or YouTube, but like his interviews, like or him at comic conventions, he's a theatrical individual. Like he's a big ham. Like he eats it up with a big wooden spoon, telling people these stories of like the Dark Phoenix saga and stuff. You can tell like he's digging it.
Yeah. On Amazon Prime, the Claremont documentary is on there if you've got an Amazon Prime account, and it's actually pretty good. It's about an hour and a half, and it talks to Claremont. They talk to Annie Nocenti. They talk to who else was part of that?
Louise Simonson's in it.
Yeah. And it focused more on the writers, which I'm sure you probably appreciate, Jake.
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely dig. And what's really also, speaking of Louise Simonson, kind of adorable, her husband, Walter Simonson, famous for Thor and like a million other great comics, especially during the pandemic, there's a lot of interviews with them together. And it's just like adorable because they're at least in their 60s. The legendary comic couple, in their house talking about all these like great comics they helped make. Is just, it adds another level. Besides being interesting, it adds another level of like cuteness and adorability that they're this cute like old couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I also love that.
I hate to interrupt the session real quick. Jake, I got a question for you real quick.
Sure.
What do you want me to draw?
Okay, and so we're going to
give me a quick request. Right? They're not really throwing them very quickly.
We've talked about Magneto.
Perfect.
We've talked Kirby, so let's go. Yeah, Master of Magnetism.
All right, and I don't know if you've watched any of the older streams, but I did a really bad Magneto one time with a Speedo, so we're going to try to do a little bit better job this time.
Well, magnetism in the Marvel universe is pretty much akin to magic. So he could still look, despite being alive during World War II, and in a Speedo, he still looks pretty fit. He's keeping it together.
Oh yeah, it was a rockin' bod. There we are.
So is it easier with the helmet or without the helmet?
No, it'll be easier with the helmet because then I don't have to draw a face. I just draw a shadow. They do that in the comics.
Artists are always looking for shortcuts, aren't they?
Always. It's, I was reading Invincible the other day, and they make a point to point out that they copy and paste panels like every 2 pages, and they even lampshaded it.
So
Yeah,
I've
like
I've never read Invincible. I know it's like supposed to be like really awesome, and they're coming out with that show. Like,
yeah.
you guys excited for that? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, it was all right. It's by the guy who did Walking Dead. For those who don't know, but
Yeah,
like,
Robert Kirkman.
but his version of superheroes. So as you can imagine, if you've seen The Walking Dead, it's not exactly a family-friendly comic either. Lots of people get hurt, pretty freely. But it's a pretty good read. Definitely a love letter to comics and that sort of nonsense. Adventures and heroism and all that stuff. It's got a decent twist in the first couple pages. It's very long, let me tell you that. I think it went for about 10 years or so. 3 big collected volumes now. I just finished the third one, so.
It's really great, like, I guess, I don't know, modern or contemporary Image comics. Because even though they were super popular in the 90s when I was a kid, I was not a fan. It's still not a fan of that era of Image comics where it's just like splash pages of like cool art that doesn't really necessarily make sense of like a plot or anything like what's happening here. But like nowadays, like Image Comics is like just like great stuff, like Invincible and The Walking Dead and
Saga.
That's what I was trying to think of. That space opera one. Yeah, Saga is fantastic.
Paper Girls.
Is Y the Last Man Image?
No, that's actually a
That's something else.
title.
Isn't that Vertigo?
That's
Yes,
but anyway,
that's a Vertigo book.
It's just cool to see Image kind of doing this different takes on superheroes and different genres, and like definitely appreciate that about them. It's neat to see the direction. I guess they've been going for quite a while now, but very different from the early Image.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and some of the early stuff that was really good. I did jump in when Image blew up and first launched. Was
You
when
have
I was
Youngblood
first
#1, Wildcats #1.
I do, and I have Spawn #1 signed by Todd McFarlane, which is I treasure that issue, and I love Spawn. I don't think it ever really lived up to the hype from a storytelling perspective, but what Image did for creator-owned comics, just in general, it changed and it made a very niche market possible. Those guys took all that clout and they weren't getting the respect or the money they should have been at Image, and they basically carved out a bigger niche within the industry that existed. There were indie books that were happening. Cerebus from Dave Sim and Dark Horse obviously was putting out great stuff. Drawn and Quarterly, slave labor graphics, but that was really obscure stuff. You had to be really like going to the comic book store every single day to be able to access some of that stuff. But Image really kind of changed the marketplace. I think in the bigger picture, I think Image was overall a net positive.
Well, I think you could definitely, I guess, with commercial art or pop art of like any kind, whether it's like comic books, music, movies, whatever, that you can divorce what you like your criticisms or critiques about kind of like taste or things of that nature versus like impacts on like the industry. So I can have my feelings on like what I think, the Pit or the Max or like as like narrative versus like what you were saying, kind of the influence it has or the impact it has on like the industry and creators' rights, and that like, hey man, if I make a piece of art that like maybe I should be allowed to like own the art.
What are you talking about?
Right. Well, that's however you feel about Todd McFarlane as a person, as a business person, as a professional, and Rob Liefeld, they use their platform to get guys from the early days of comics, especially Jack Kirby. They did a lot to talk about the plight of some of these older creators who they had no pensions, they didn't own the rights to the stuff they created, and they used their platform. I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really know that much about Jack Kirby, but the Image guys were talking about like all the stuff that was created at Marvel and at DC by Jack Kirby. He wasn't getting any residuals from that, and there still is no like old artist retirement fund. Unfortunately,
there's not. Who did I send that application to?
Right. Checks in the mail.
Oh, good.
like, you know, I don't know, maybe Marvel Comics still say on the masthead like Stan Lee presents. Like they never had anything like that from Jack, but the sheer volume of his work that like even before I knew like what kind of person did what thing, I knew that there was a lot of Marvel Comics that had that name in the beginning. You know, and especially if it was like a number one or like the first appearance of or like the creation of like a huge like character or like work, I knew it had that name in the front of it, whether it was like X-Men or Fantastic Four or Avengers. Like if it was like a big Marvel comic and it was like the first one from back in the 60s, I knew when I was going to open that page, somewhere it was going to say Jack Kirby in the front of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't like that before the Image guys really pushed Marvel and DC to start, giving credit to the people. And they're not perfect at it. I know there's a character that was in WandaVision that Kurt Busiek created in the third Avengers volume that came out in the late 90s with art by George Perez. They didn't give credit to Kurt for his character, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but he was talking about it on Twitter. Just, you know, less of a, hey, where's my paycheck, and more of a like, hey, it'd be nice to see my name up there with the other creators.
Yeah, no, they're getting better with that, but yeah, they could.
They are.
They could definitely keep doing right by those people.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, knock on wood. I guess a lot of this gets into weeds about like copyright and things in general. It's been in the news lately, kind of creator ownership and stuff like that.
I wouldn't count on it. Disney owns Marvel now. They're going to own DC soon. It's not going to get any better.
Well, that's also when you're getting to those image creators, if specifically like with their work, like McFarlane and like Jim Lee, that you would see on a lot of like whether it was like posters in the comic book store or like the covers of video games, that like literally their art was being like reproduced and used for that kind of those materials. And even if it's work for hire and they don't own kind of the license or the like, sorry, Jim Lee, like you don't own Wolverine or Art Adams, like it, but even given that fact, like if you're reproducing their art over and over again, like if you're putting it on the cover of a Nintendo game, like they should get more than just like their page rate or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of what got kind of ridiculous with like, especially when X-Men blew up, that like you're reproducing this art for like sick amounts of like other ancillary materials. And that's kind of the weird irony of it is they sided with the artist over Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont leaves, and then like less than a year later, the artist's like, oh, by the way, we're what is like everyone's coming to see, so we're just going to make our own company and like keep all the money. So like, see you guys. Like, so it's just like a weird kind of irony that like they're like, oh, everyone's into the artist, so like, sorry, Chris, we know you were the architect for 17 years, but we got to go with the artist. And then a year later, the artists are like, well, you're like making a lot of money off us, so we like would like to keep the money, so we're just going to make Image Comics.
Yeah. And believe it or not, guys, we're actually just about out of time. That was an hour.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed their requests and their drawings and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to finish up this one last drawing, and this is actually a throwback to Mr. Hinkle's stream 2 days ago. Someone requested Kirby Silver Surfer, and of course he misunderstood it to be the video game character, and he didn't draw it, but I love the idea so much that I wanted to give it a shot before we closed it out today.
I like that. I feel like that could be a T-shirt on Etsy. Like I feel like people would be into the Kirby Surfs.
I'll just say stay tuned. There may be some news coming up after this Kickstarter gets done that you guys might enjoy or might not. I don't know. We'll see. But I've got plans. Let's just say these sketches aren't necessarily going to waste.
So kind of like Battlestar style. You have a plan.
I always have a plan. Whether that plan matures and functions like I thought it would, I always have something going. Anyway, so yeah, that's. I think that's going to be it, guys. There's my Kirby Silver Surfer.
I was going to say, is that Silver Surfer Kirby? That's great. I love
that. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for coming by, and if you haven't already entered my giveaway, I think we are out of time. It's set to expire at a certain point, but let me double check and make sure Oh, it says not started. Oh my God, has it up and running this whole time? Oh no! Well,
So
I'm a fool.
What happens now?
Well, I guess people could still enter anyway because I've got 3 entries. Oh no! Why didn't anyone tell me? It hasn't been working this whole time.
So
Cool.
do we have to talk about comic books for another hour? Or like, do these people
No, I unfortunately have some things to do, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Son of a monkey. I can't believe... How did that even happen? I had this set. Dang thing. I apologize about that, guys. If you tried to enter and it didn't work, yeah. Well, it definitely didn't work. I think those 3 entries are for me. Let me see. Oh, no. I guess you guys got in somehow or another. Very cool. All right. So I guess we'll draw it. And hold on.
I kind of like this lineup of a team. Can we do something with, before we get sued by Disney and I get a cease and desist letter, do a Rogue, Hawkeye, silhouette of a black horse, Scarlet Witch, Silver Surfer.
Team up issue? Yeah.
Yeah. Like
The new Avengers.
I dig this team.
Oh, man. That would be great.
Here.
Here, so I'm going to go ahead and draw this real quick. Like I said, I'm not sure how everyone got to enter, but your names are on there. So drum roll, please. And our winner is Deanna, a.k.a. Demure. So congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations, Mazel Tov.
Yes, and I will send you an email shortly with the information on what to do and how that will work. In the meantime, we'll do a very quick tour of everything we did. Started out with the Scarlet Witch, of course, Wanda Maximoff. You may have seen her in the latest Marvel series. If you haven't, you should check it out. It's pretty cool. Then we went to Spider-Pig, which I know they probably meant the Simpsons version, but I went with Spider-Ham because I like that version better. Yes. And then we did Rogue, I believe. Sorry, this is kind of jiggly. I think I've got a hair on here setting it off. And I didn't know how to draw Rogue, so that one's kind of messed up, but that's okay.
It's Rogue. She says, I'm Rogue. So clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, it's Rogue.
Our flamingo of the day was the Punisher flamingo. My wife's a big fan of Punisher, so that's why she went with that. And then we did a Scotty Young style Hawkeye, just for Hawkeye Lego Man. A black horse, because I misunderstood the request. Marge Simpson as an anime. You said a French style, and I thought you meant like the hair. But
no, that's pretty much that was what was going on. There's a lot going on there. There's some subtext. I don't know.
And then we did a Magneto, and I gave him a fidget spinner because, if you have magnet powers, what else are you going to do with it?
Clearly.
And then finally, we ended it up on a request actually from 2 streams ago, the Kirby Silver Surfer.
That's brilliant. Obviously, when people see that and they know what it is, that's the kind of T-shirt you get a high five in the street over. Like when people are like, oh man, it's a Kirby Silver. Like
like the 5 people who will get it will love that joke.
Yeah.
I would wear that shirt.
Yeah, I know you would.
Totally.
All right, guys. Well, let me do our quick goodbye spiel, and then I'll let you guys say some final words, and we'll call it an afternoon. Thanks so much to everyone who tuned in. Expecting to see art created by a professional, but found me instead. I've been your host, Raymond Griffith, and you can find me on all the socials as Funny Figs. Go follow me up, and away! The incredible red optic blasts you saw emanating from your screen today were provided by the amazing Jake Cohen. Go follow him on Instagram and Twitter as Jake Scott Cohen. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
All right, that thwipping sound and those strange webs everywhere were provided by the incredible Lennon Patton. He is at Lennon Patton on all the socials, and if you want to get an inside look at the miserable art of Oklahoma politics, he's your guy. The little tufts of blue fur and howling noises you've heard near the computer were provided by Jacob Griffith. Check out his game, liars.wiki, link in the doobly-doo below. It's a free-to-play detective game where you try to give you try to best your enemies with fake knowledge. Special thanks as always to the man currently stretching his limbs several miles away to quickly beat his fitness goal, Kevin Hinkle. Kevin was relatively willing victim in my machinations this week, and we went to make sure he knows it was very much appreciated. Check him out on all the socials as Mr. Hinkle Draws, and the Tony Stark really wasn't that bad. Additional special thanks to the mighty Captain Britain, aka Matt Elder, as the final third of our super team we formed this week. I appreciate his willingness to let me completely take over what was once a nice calm week and turn it into chaos. Check him out as Family Bricks on YouTube. And did you see his man thing? A huge amount of gratitude to the hulking green woman behind me, who used to be my wife before I forgot to thank her last time. Here's hoping she calms down before I'm crushed into a basketball. Most of all, thanks to the avenging team of people who have pledged to bring Astounding Tales #1 into reality. If you're not already part of the campaign, it's the perfect time to join. We're about to launch our second backer game. We've got a new t-shirt tier that just unlocked, and for as low as $1, you can say you were there when it all began. Well, would you guys like to say anything as we head out?
Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the more of the comic coming out, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
We're excited
believe
for
me.
people to see it.
Yeah, us too. We've got some crazy things planned.
Yeah.
Join us again in 2 weeks. We'll be discussing what makes kryptonite so deadly to Superman and whether Earthanite would have a similar effect on us. Till then, it's been a blast.